All right, so Spider-Man 2, it has come out. Everybody has pretty well played it and checked it out and picked it up. And if you haven't, then this is going to be a very spoilery video. So, precaution, pre-warning on that. Spider-Man 2, along with Miles Morales being in the Spider-Man 2 game, it's been pretty cool. It's been a pretty good year for all gaming, AAA, especially AAA gaming for the year of 2023. It's probably this year is going to go down as one of the best ever gaming years. There's no question about it. We can only imagine what the game of the year list is going to look like at the Game Awards this year. It's probably going to be one of the hardest lists for them to, bring that list down to like five titles, that have all the stuff that has come out. So to jump into it, first thing I wanted to actually just give a quick mention was the Las Vegas Sphere, I do believe it's called. It had a marketing campaign going on. It's Microsoft did a little bit of a marketing campaign for the Xbox Series X and S, but Sony actually had a product that they make that they have developed themselves, and it was Spider-Man, and then Venom was up on the big sphere, and he had his tongue out. And he's looking down on everything. Super cool, super cool. Seeing that the Vegas Sphere is a very very cool thing that they do over in Las Vegas. So Spider-Man 2, huge success, easily game of the year worthy material in its. It wasn't perfect, I'd say. It was very very good. I do highly recommend checking out Spider-Man 2 along with the original Marvel Spider-Man that was on the PS4 and now also on the PS5 with the remastered version and on the PC. Spider-Man 2, hopefully we get a PC version of it in the nearest future, within this next year. I almost want to say maybe Sony should actually look at bringing down the timeline, so instead of it being a year exclusive on the PS5, 6 months maybe. And then, because for me, I love seeing everything that comes out on the PS5, but I also love seeing everything that comes out on the PC, because then you can mod it, you can do the different settings and all that. Usually the PC versions of games that are made for the PlayStation run pretty well similar. Same thing with the Xbox also, although everything for Xbox is more or less made with PC in mind, as it's like, as that is like Microsoft's main platform that they're focused on. But again, modders, all the different Spider-Man suits and everything else that came out for Spider-Man or Marvel's Spider-Man, the remastered, and Miles Morales DLC. Again, talking about that, Spider-Man, Miles Morales. Again, we're going to spoiler territory, so the last chance to pause the video. But Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn, Mary Jane Watson is probably more badass than she ever has been in the game, and that is going to say something. So before we get into that and the way that Mary Jane Watson's character has evolved into being a very cool character, I do want to touch upon something that is, it's just makes me, it's like almost cringy, but at the same time it's just annoying so much, that they force this stuff into the game. They force feed it into the main storyline even. So Miles Morales, he goes over to the college campus, and one of the tie-in missions to the main story is that you have to help out a kid who is trying to set up a display to ask his boyfriend out to prom. And they go through this whole thing of, oh, we watched this movie and we had our first kid, and here's a poster over there of this and that and the other thing. And in all honesty, the whole time that I was going through it, I'm just like, I just don't care. I just don't care that this stuff is basically it was acting like a side quest, but it really wasn't, because it's part of the whole college thing that connects to Miles Morales, pushing through the main story. Pretty sure you have to do those story missions. It's not just something that you can just skip by and run through. Hell, you can't even skip the conversations that end up happening. I tried, because again, I was just like, I just don't care about this stuff being just in the main story, thrown in your face like that. Also part of the main story, and this is something also that we've seen a lot happening in recent years with the Hollywood side of things of Spider-Man and MCU and this and that and the other thing, is the whole thing of Black Cat, which, this is it's been a bit of a controversy. There has been articles already written about it. Insomniac Games let everyone know that this was going to happen. I actually didn't know about it until I got into the story. Now, in Marvel's Spider-Man 1, there is a bit of a love triangle that starts up between Black Cat and Peter Parker because in this version of Spider-Man's story, it's a little bit farther into the future. Spider-Man has been Spider-Man for a little while. He has a very good solid, relationship between, Peter and MJ going on. But there was a lot of history between Peter and Felicia Hardy, which is Black Cat. And what did they do? Of course, it's one of the character, they can't add a character into the storyline. They have to change something. And this is something that we always see when it comes to the Hollywood side of things. I will also say, there's a million writers on every single game, AAA big budget game like this. There is, one department is working on side quests, another department is working on description item stuff. There's another department that is working on main story stuff. There's another department that is working on character design and all that. I know how the games industry works. There is a team that was really pushing to have a lot of, Pride stuff just packed into the game. And they got their way. They got their wish. It could also be something to do with the what is it, the DEI stuff, all the Pride, community marketing campaign stuff that they have to push in everybody's face all the time. Elements, something of all of it's got thrown together, and what do we end up getting? Well, one of the main story characters, and this is one of my few, I'd say, flaws with the game, is in the storyline that happened in Spider-Man 2. So we even had a full-on DLC going into the whole possibility of Peter Parker being, Felicia Hardy's baby daddy and all that stuff. And what they do, they just threw out the whole storyline, and they kept that there is history there between Peter Parker and Black Cat, but Black Cat is now a bi girl. She's looking for a girlfriend, and she's trying to get, some magical wand thing. I mean, and all the parts of the game is somewhat rooted in reality. Like, they always explain stuff with a scientific explanation, and this is the one time where they forced the storyline to go in this direction so hardcore that they actually had to make up not make up, but they had to use a object of magical ability just to force this damn storyline to happen. And I'm like, oh, 90% of the rest of the game is super cool. It's very engaging, very well done. I like 90% of the rest of the game, but it's just those little moments in there that are just like, you have to go through this stuff. And then also they just tore apart that whole storyline of what could have been. I mean, it could have even been DLC or something, the heist part 2, which is the heist was the DLC that it was an expansion storyline DLC that they did for Marvel Spider-Man. So one of my biggest gripes with the whole thing is that they ended up really just destroying that love triangle storyline that could have been blossomed into something very, very, cool and unique, and, had a whole bunch of different web of storylines going on. See what I did there? Instead, again, they just turned Black Cat gay. So it's like, okay, so she has a thing for Peter, or at least had a thing for the Peter, and now she's running over, using a teleportation device to, I don't know why I just use air quotes because it is, but a teleportation device, there we go, that is pushing her over to Paris. And I thought it was kind of odd because the whole storyline thing, it starts off with, you get, as Miles Morales, you get a call up, and you start talking with Black Cat. I'm like, why is Miles getting the call, not Peter, when Felicia has all that backstory and history and everything with Peter Parker? And then it went into that whole storyline. I'm just like, this is so odd. It just feels so forced. And again, it's one of those things like, why do you have to change a character? Why do you have to force the character into being something that has never been before? Character's been around for, ever since early days of Spider-Man comics, and she's always been something of a love interest to Peter Parker, the same way that Gwen is a love interest to Peter Parker. So what's the next thing? Like they're gonna introduce Gwen into Spider Woman there into the next Spider-Man game, and then all of a sudden she just she can't have anything to do with Peter Parker because now she is a full-on gay character. Also, it's just stop messing with characters. I've been saying this forever. Stop messing with characters. Create new characters. Add new drama to what is already established lore. You can do it, especially in gaming. Like there is an infinite amount of possibilities that you can do, in between casting and creating characters and all that stuff. It's so much easier to do it in gaming. Movies wise, it's Hollywood, sure, but I would expect more from the gaming front to make brand new characters. And I get it, Insomniac has to work with Marvel, but they could come up with a very cool character design and pitch it to Marvel and probably come up with something that is exclusive to the games that makes people even want to play games even more, that are from that community, that represents that community. It's just a golden opportunity wasted on changing the already established lore of a character. Now, okay, so I did do a little bit of background research on it too. And apparently Black Cats, they, the Rainbow Brigade had their way and they got that storyline pushed into the actual lore-driven comics of Black Cats. I'm just like, again, it's just one of those things like, man, why? Why can't we just have a new thing? Instead of why can we never have nice things? It's like why can we not have a new thing? So to jump into once again the Mary Jane Watson thing of, is Mary Jane Watson's character it's kind of ugly looking? I don't think so. I do think it is a thing of they're trying to match up it's kind of the voice over sort of, but the character. So this is a very weird one. There's a lot to unpack here. So Mary Jane Watson is voiced by Laura Bailey, which everybody knows Laura's face. Everybody, that's one of those things. Like Laura Bailey, she has appeared in games, face scanned into games before, but they decided to go the route of using another model to face scan into the game. Apparently, that's what they said. But there's a writer on the game. On Spider-Man 2, and the character model of Mary Jane looks identical to the storyline writer. Did the storyline writer push to have her face in the game? It's probably not, because that is two separate departments. Did somebody maybe have a crush or something? That's what the discourse around it was. Somebody had a major crush on that writer, and they tried they used her likeness into the game. Very well could have been that. Maybe there was a reason why behind the scenes that, there was maybe a licensing dispute or something with the model's face or something. You never know what's going on there, but it is definitely, it's a weird one because the character looks absolutely, so Mary Jane Watson has never looked like the actual person that they hired to be the face model for it. She doesn't. She just doesn't. The whole face doesn't even match up or anything. So one of the people also works in the industry, has a big YouTube channel. They said that it's so weird that people are targeting a writer for having their face scanned into the game, and it was just one of those things of, that's a bad look to be saying that, because it's not that people were targeting. They were just like, why is this happening? And to take it into that conversation is just like, oh, man. Again, though, this is something that is happening behind the scenes where, I get it, though, because game developers get like a lot of death threats and stuff. So it's definitely, it's just one of these weird situations that was happening with Spider-Man. But it's been happening not just with AAA big budget games. It's been happening with all the games industry. Again, death threats should stop. There's no need for them. There's no reason for them. This is a piece of entertainment. It's just dumb to even do that stuff. But it is funny seeing that, we're having different things creep up in the games industry like that, where it's like, okay, so here's who it's supposed to be, but here's who it is. And, just some weird behind the scenes stuff happening. Another character. So talk about things that they have changed up. So this is kind of like they made it work, and it was a very like, oh no, where are they going with this? So at the end of Spider-Man 1, we see that Harry Osborn is in the, in the tube of goop, if you will, basically sitting in the goblin serum, we're thinking, and then all of a sudden the symbiote hits the glass. Everybody lost their minds, including me. We were all like, wait, what? Harry is going to be Venom? What the hell is going on here? And sure enough, yes, Harry is Venom, because Harry has he has a syndrome, a disease, I guess you could say, where he is dying, but the symbiote is keeping him alive. So there's a whole thing going on with Harry Osborn. I don't mind the lore change there because they made it work. It's not just something that's like forced of like Harry Osborn. It's actually, so they need to keep Harry alive somehow. They used the symbiote to do it. Now, would I, Eddie Brock and all that stuff. Here's the reason why I don't mind Harry Osborn getting changed up slightly, because he is going to. So they are keeping the actual original lore course with Harry Osborn. They're going to make him the Green Goblin. It's very much hinted at that. And seeing if the red, or if the green vat of the goblin serum that everybody knows, like when somebody goes into that green liquid, they turn all nutso and they turn into Green Goblin and all that stuff. If that wasn't there, I'd have a way more of a problem with them changing up the lore. But the fact that they are actually keeping that lore intact and they're sticking with that, but then adding to it, instead of introducing a whole other character of Eddie Brock, they actually didn't really need to, because they were actually making the character bond stronger between Peter and Harry, and they're bringing that bond together like they are brothers. They're very close. They're hinting and alluding to Norman Osborn has been there for Peter. Those two grew up together, so there's this giant history that they're creating there. And so technically what they're doing is they're not even changing the character. They're adding to the character. So in that aspect, they did a very good job. And then all of a sudden, like, most likely it's a different writing team that handled the Black Cat situation. They kind of screwed the character up, and they tore apart a whole storyline that they were building up from previously before. So again, it's like on the same project in the same game, you have two very different takes on a classic storyline. One did it very well and is actually adding a very cool twist to the original storyline while keeping the original storyline. And then there's another one. It's like, this is a giant example for Hollywood actually to really look at, because again, instead of destroying something, they're actually adding to it and making it better. Meanwhile, over here, it could very well be ex-Hollywood writers that were writing the Black Cat storyline and tried to do all the Miles Morales stuff. I don't know. But it very much seems so, like, because like gaming has always been a thing of like, we're going to add on to the character, not change it, because the character is interactive and you're doing so much storytelling, you just add on. You never change a character dramatically, because then the interaction, that feeling of connectivity that the player has to the character gets lost if you change it, or if you destroy something, character trait in the character. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen a lot in gaming. So again, it's just this very cool dynamic that they did with Harry Osborn, in that fact of Harry Osborn is going to be Goblin. It is heavily hinted that the next game is going to feature Green Goblin and one more guy. So Venom has pretty much been mostly destroyed, sort of. So Venom is we had a giant game with Venom. Venom was handled very well. He looks super cool on the screen. Everything that happens there between the symbiote suits, turning into anti-Venom, the whole 9 yards, all that. I thought it was super cool, super well done, and especially also the way that Harry Osborn and Miles Morales, and then Harry Osborn working between Miles Morales and MJ and Peter, like the whole dynamic, all the characters were so well done in it. It was awesome seeing that. Now, one of the side quests, which this is where the side quests actually got very cool and very interesting, was the introduction of Carnage. Now, the Flame On group and the group of Flamers. No, the Flame On group was Pyromaniacs. I forget exactly what their names are, but the cult pyro guys and girls. uh, their leader turning into Carnage at the end. You just see this symbiote in the canister turning red. And I'm just like, oh, it's Carnage. Cool. Again, I can't remember the exact lore on Carnage, but it just seems like a very good introduction to the Carnage character. The way that they're bringing him into the fold of the series. Again, it's just making Spider-Man 3 that much more of just a hyped up thing of like, what in the hell are we going to be doing? So it's also very interesting that along with all these characters and all this lore being presented, they are also Insomniac Games is also hinting at that now that Spider-Man 3 has wrapped up, or Spider-Man 2 is wrapped up. We know Spider-Man 3 is in the works. So you can just tell off from everything that is left on the table there with Spider-Man 2, but also Wolverine. So now we're going to have Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Wolverine, Carnage, Green Goblin. Like, the table is stacking up so well for Insomniac Games. Again, my biggest thing with it is don't go the woke route with it. Don't go into that territory. Don't change up characters to try and really push a storyline in there. Again, I'm going to get a platinum trophy for Spider-Man 2. I think it was great. It definitely deserves a platinum. It deserves nomination for Game of the Year. It did everything right. I think if there is one game for like PlayStation that represents, that is a PlayStation Studios title that represents Game of the Year this year, it is Spider-Man 2. I don't know about other games for Game of the Year, but Spider-Man 2 absolutely should be in that conversation. Would I vote for Spider-Man 2 for Game of the Year? Right now, it's very high on my list. I'd have to see like the whole list of nominees, but Spider-Man 2 is 100% up there on the list. So yeah, hopefully Wolverine also has so one of the things I definitely noticed too, going into the Wolverine discussion, is Spider-Man 2 was a little bit more of a darker tone and a little bit more of a grown-up feel to it, because there is a lot of stuff. There was, to also talk about like the woke stuff in the game. There was a moment where like Mary Jane Watson, the whole time when she gets taken over by the symbiote, and she starts yelling at Peter Parker for like, you never pay the bills and you're always working and da da da. I'm always taking care of you and all that stuff. It's such a feminist rant. So it feels like to me like the same team that was writing some of the Mary Jane Watson storyline points was also writing probably the Black Cat stuff and some of that side quest stuff, or like main story side quest stuff of Miles Morales. Feels like there's like one writing team that is just like pushing the agenda in there, if you will. Which again, hopefully it's not super prevalent in Wolverine. I did say something on social media of like, yeah, well, what are they going to do next? Like, they changed the character of Black Cat, so Sabretooth is going to be, some weird, transgender lesbian Sabretooth villain for Wolverine. Like, what the hell? Like, stop changing characters. Add new characters, sure. Add new lore to characters, and but don't overall just change and just destroy a storyline just to add that stuff in. If you want to, add the lore in where the character is still the same character, but it adds an extra layer to the character. Again, that Harry Osborn is so well done. He's awesome. Mary Jane Watson really also too is so well done. She is super cool. She is awesome. The whole, like, I've seen a little bit of discourse that the Mary Jane Watson stealth gameplay parts, not everybody was clicking with it. I'm just like, if you play Resident Evil, you're right at home with it. She is just shooting everything up, just blasting away zombie kind of dudes, or the symbiotes, creature stuff. And I thought it was awesome that they did. It was like basically a Spider-Man version of Resident Evil. How could you not like that? If you're a shooter Resident Evil fan, the whole discourse around like, well, Peter Parker is super athletic and he does all this jumping and flipping and dipping and kicking and everything, but then Mary Jane Watson is like choo 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 choo. It's like, well, yes, they're two different characters. She's not Spider-Woman. Would I love to see Gwen be brought in and she does a lot of the Spider-Man stuff? Absolutely. Um, but again, that's a different character. So you're adding a character in. You're not changing a character around. Like, don't. I mean, okay, if they made Mary Jane Watson into Spider Woman, that would add a that wouldn't be really changing her, like keep her character the exact same way, but all of a sudden she joins Peter on the whole like saving New York front. Again, I wouldn't actually be against that because you're keeping her character the way that you established the character, but then you're adding another layer to her. And then, you have the whole thing of, Peter and MJ can work together to save the city and all that. It'd be super cool. It'd be super cool. Drop Gwen into the mix and maybe Miles Morales and Gwen, and then you're going into into the Spider-Verse movie territory there. Again, it's already we've seen the storyline work that way. So, if you want to just add that layer in there while adding a new character on, that's where I would like to see the series go, is to add more to the characters. Don't destroy storylines. And again, just be wary of what you're setting up and where you're going with these characters. Spider-Man 2, not only is it a Game of the Year contender, but there is so much to learn from the design of the different teams working on it. And hopefully every studio out there, pays attention and looks at what Spider-Man 2 has been doing. Again, probably 90% of the storyline for Spider-Man 2 was great. There was some hiccups in it. Overall, though, everything that they brought to the table, Insomniac, once again knocked out the park. They did exactly what they set out to do. And they are setting up for one hell of a franchise if they can keep the Marvel license. And, if we'll see what Wolverine turns out to be in. Like they did go a little bit more of the more grown up conversation in Spider-Man 2. Can we get kind of like the R-rated, if you will, version of a Wolverine game with some blood? With I don't know about gore because it is Marvel. We are in that Disney era of Marvel. So I don't know if we can get like, X-Men Wolverines type of gameplay where we're, chopping people in half and, obliterating people and, throwing them in the helicopter blades and all that stuff. But if what you can actually, so here's my thinking for Wolverine. If you can take the very, very dynamic and very cool storyline, and also you're gonna have to hint the X-Men and all that stuff, but take that very in-depth storyline that Logan has and Wolverine has, and you don't even need the gore if you can make the story really punch hard into the feels and the emotions and everything else that Logan goes through. I think you can make up, like, definitely have the blood there because it is Wolverine. He's using claws. He's tearing through people. Like, you need to have something of blood there, sure. Spider-Man is one where you don't see anybody really bleed unless you're looking at the movie stuff. But like, comics and animated cartoons and all that stuff, blood isn't really prevalent. It's not a main focus. With Logan, it's like, he'll tear somebody apart and be just head to toe, the Crimson Mask, to use a wrestling term. So again, hopefully they go that direction with it. It seems like they're kind of trying to mature the studio a little bit. Insomniac Games. Insomniac Games, it has really felt like more of a PG-13 studio, if you will, or the last few years with all the Spider-Man stuff that they've been doing on it. But again, they can go. Hopefully, they go into that direction, and Wolverine turns into something even cooler than what any of us can expect it to be. I would say keep your hype check, but be optimistic about it. So, anyways, Spider-Man 2. Again, if you haven't picked it up, if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. I wanted to do a bit of a let's talk. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all that good stuff. And I will be back again very soon. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see you next time.